Hi, welcome to Addiction Recovery Place podcast, the podcast championing addiction treatment professionals around the world. I'm your host, Chris Langley, and I'm very pleased to introduce today's guest, Tara Ballinger. Tara is the founder of Recovery Resources and is located in the state of Virginia. Welcome to Addiction Recovery Place podcast, Tara. It's so good to have you with us today.
Thank you for having me.
No, I really appreciate it. I'm really excited to talk to you today because your journey has been quite exceptional, and I'm really excited for our listeners to hear about it. So can you tell us about yourself and your journey to becoming the founder of Recovery Resources?
Yeah, so I guess being a product of my environment, coming from dysfunction, going through addiction, I was emancipated at 14. I've used every type of drug, had no purpose, found purpose, messed the purpose up due to no solid foundation. And then finally just kept going. I just said, let me give this one more chance. Let me try to go back to get my peer certification. And when I did that, I broke into a lot of things that I really didn't expect for me personally, and then also professionally, with where I kind of felt like I was being driven to help. Being a child of alcoholism, drug addiction, abuse, neglect, every, sexual abuse, every kind of abuse, anything that was, that I think that's what kind of makes my story unique and why I really feel like I have a talent, a purpose for this. I really feel like there's a reason my stars have aligned. And it's taken this long. I think it's strategically, I think it's intentional because I wouldn't have been ready for the things that I'm doing now. Had I not went through things up until 6 months ago, I wouldn't be ready, and now I want to not just talk about what works. I don't want to talk about my story. That's part of it, but I want to focus on solutions. Because at this point, people are talking a lot, people are wanting to do a lot, but I feel like if I show them, maybe it'll be either A, more attractive, or B, easier to understand.
So Recovery Resources has come from your own personal journey.
Yes.
So how long ago did this start, Tara? When did you first decide to do this?
So 6 years ago, my main big pitch, I guess, to kind of draw people in is where I've turned tragedy to triumph. I overdosed with my kids 6 years ago in the car. It was my last use. I'll never forget that day. That was my rock bottom. I had many before that, but in that journey, I have went through so many treatment centers, and I wanted it quite a few times, but it was almost like I'm being told there's 27 pathways, there's this, there's that, but I wasn't getting any tight-knit treatment to really help explore those options. They were kind of just like a commercial I would see on TV, right? Like a quick snippet, and I would never get to dive into those things. So over the years, speaking with other people in recovery, speaking with the youth, speaking with professionals that are medical professionals in addiction, law enforcement in addiction, the general consensus I have gained is there's a lot of gaps. There's a lot of gaps, and it's on all types of pillars. It's communication, it's networking, it's availability. It's so many things that if I take my story and use that to dissect where my gaps were, they're so simple and small because all they require is compassion, empathy, understanding, prevention, and awareness. And literally those things can be done by a community. And I'm so close with, networking in my community locally, but now, globally and nationally. And it's just like, wait a minute, we're all doing the same thing. Like, why can we not converse more and make this more of if it's already, a problem and a stigma out there, it's becoming such a big problem. Why not have us all join in hands? And it's going to take some time, but if you've got the drive there, we can close in those gaps. And literally that one little gap can really save somebody's life. I am the person that overdosed 6 years ago. And for those 3 days prior to that, I was actually on MAT, medicated assisted treatment, methadone. I tried, this was like my 10th attempt on some kind of MAT, whether it was with the right intention or not. Either way, the main thing I found from that was my support, the people I trusted, and then also the treatment that wasn't with it. So all these things I have great insight to because I lived it. And I really believe that not only just opening people's eyes, but showing them the solution and showing the options, even if it's not my option, there's many options. I just need to get them out there and just show people, how it applied in my life.
That's an incredible journey. That really is. Congratulations.
Thank you.
From where you were 6 years ago to now, which is what we're going to tell our audience about, because I'm really excited to find out. So what is your goal for Recovery Resources? What's the plan?
So you have perfect timing because I have been battling back and forth on my best approach to be the most impactful, but the least exhausting, where I don't get burnt out, because this is my life, my passion. So it's not work to me, but I'm also coming into contact with political barriers, personal barriers, local barriers, that I don't want that to stop the purpose of my mission. So my mission is to have a safe space, man. So I've been doing some networking where I've joined people together that have nothing to do with recovery. They have good hearts. They're compassionate people. But I tell them my story. I tell them my mission and what my intention is to get a community involved. It takes a village to raise a child. I grew up hearing that. Why does everybody think they can do it all alone now? So with Recovery Resources, I have managed to get a few people together, show them my mission, and I'm given a chance to kind of make it my own safe space. And I think overall I have decided to make it a center. Music is my main core, my coping, my therapy, my universal language, right? So there's so many pathways, but I've got to get people into this safe space to let them just at least feel safe, right? Music is a language that I can talk to in any culture. It's very inclusive. If I have a center and I started off with music and I have some other treatment stuff available, I've got a peer there. I can literally just open people up through music and communication. I've got a peer there, and he can, between me and him, try to help get them a treatment plan. But I'm only getting clients to treatment centers that I know them, because I always meet and have lunch with them before, the peer director, the BD, and the director of operations. Because look, I want to know where I'm sending them. I'm not sending people to just Medicaid funded, or we got grants, we've got new beds, cool, but do you care? Are you going to follow their treatment? And if their treatment doesn't work there, are they a failure? Or can you just support them, send them back to me, and we regroup and we get it right, instead of saying, nope, it didn't work out, sorry, but deal with consequences. No, we can't sit there and put a mold on somebody and say, you've got to take recovery this way. We're telling them we have so many pathways, but we're not letting them explore those pathways. We're literally giving them what we have in this one treatment center, and they think they can do it all, and they can't. So, I use 27 pathways in one day. My day is so up and down: mental health, recovery, life on life's terms, and kids and co-parenting. I could keep going. But in that daily log, I can see where I've used many coping skills. I've used many different supports or networks, and I've not done it alone.
Yeah, you've made a perfect description about peer support, Tara. But what is it that makes peer support so effective within the recovery space? Because it's a huge one.
Trust.
Yep.
Trust. Mm-hmm. That is all it is. Because, and it's not like you can even really explain the feeling of the peer impact. I could tell you all day. I just did a national study last week for Oklahoma University on peer impact, and they can have the numbers. But I truly believe, with my gift of speaking that I've been pushed into, and very happily, I've been able to create connections. And those connections might be normal conversations for me and a stranger, but they don't realize that's where our trust initiates. And if I've got trust with people in a general population and with people in recovery. I've got to connect us. And if I'm that person to show the trust, it's going to be attractive. And trust me, I just paid for my first client's peer training last week. She's going to get her internship hours at my facility, at my place, which is, look, it's free for people. It's free for people. I'm not charging people to come in. I've got, things lined up. I'm self-funded, but I've also got people that, offer up services, or they offer up, I've got this I need, I take it to them. Let me pay for this package to help you get to this event. It's just different things where I'm able to take the funding and really put it into the clients. But the peer work is going to be the main thing. So I paid for her peer training. I reached out to my old peer trainer, got her in, paid for the class, printed her a manual out, and I told her I'll be her mentor right here. She's got a teacher that's great. But I've been there. I went through the whole process. We were incarcerated together 6 years ago. She's been clean for a year, and I helped her start her cleaning company, but she's not finding her purpose. She doesn't feel whole, and she's getting turned down so many places, but I know how to help. Look at, I was that person that was, let go because of my criminal record, which caused me to get my charges expunged, 43 of them. But I didn't want to go back to work for anybody after that, because I know how powerful my work can be without having an overhead over it of somebody that just doesn't understand it, or maybe just wants it for the money. So she'll get her internship hours with me, and then she'll be my first peer. And I'll know that when I send her off, there's quite a few people she's going to be able to touch, because I know that she got the right mentorship, she got the right teacher, and she's going to see the right work being done.
It sounds like you've got your first person of many coming up.
Yes.
I mean, the work you're putting in is absolutely incredible. It's just so wonderful to hear this. You mentioned about funding, Tara. So how are you funded? How are you doing what you're doing?
So I'm self-funded. I have initially I was going and doing soft openings for treatment centers, because I didn't really build on what I didn't know what I wanted to build. I didn't know I had resources, but I didn't know what to put together. So I went out to keep money coming in. I was doing business development as recovery resources, but it was because the treatment centers knew of me through business development at treatment centers. I was going to, professional liaison association meetings where it was like a network of Virginia local business developers of treatment centers. So I had all the contacts, but I couldn't figure out how to piece it together. So in that, I was able to start doing soft openings, actually like really doing framework for treatment centers, brand new treatment centers. And then on that scale, you really learn their program pretty quickly. And I ran so fast, because I was like, yeah, I can't support this. Like, this is just literally about money. So, I did that. And then through the last 4 months, I kind of got pushed into developing a sponsorship tier, different businesses wanting to offer services or exchange services. And then honestly, I make these necklaces like Taylor Swift. I make necklaces and bracelets for my coping. I just started doing it. My daughter's a Swiftie, but my funding for this, I make these just for fun and to clear my mind all throughout my day. But then I sell them. I started giving them away as like an act of kindness, but it turned into some funding, because I travel for work and I started just giving them out to people. They're positive affirmations. She will, I belong, keep going, set me free. Right. So I noticed in giving them to people, it was literally like an olive branch. So then fast forward 2 months later, I'm going to different places and giving them, they're like, how much do I owe you? And I'm like, nothing. What do you, this is good for me. So in that, it's like, well, wait a minute. Somebody once said, yeah, you might not need to be greedy or need more money. But the thing is, the more money you have, the more you can do. So, and that being said, a light bulb went off. It's like, duh. So I've been doing some research, and I put a Etsy shop. I just finished inventory pictures. And what I'm going to do is take say a bracelet for $15. I'd take $7, put it into a crisis fund for clients, and then take the other half and put it back into making them. But I have people that donate these beads and stuff to me now because I make them, just because, as an olive branch, as an act of kindness, now into a business to go back into funding the clients. And that's straight for the clients, like whatever their needs are.
And people are always going to remember that, Tara. They're always going to remember whenever they look at that, they're going to, yep, I remember Tara.
I've given out about 300 bracelets, and I can't tell you those were all free. And that was literally just, on planes and in stores, a little kid crying because his mom's being, kind of rude. And I go, hey, buddy, you want a little bracelet? Just to not cause look, I don't want to put my foot in anywhere, but I'm telling you, it's the most inclusive and easiest way that I've been able to create connections with people that might otherwise be closed circuits.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, something very simple, but something very effective and very powerful.
And then you put the QR code on there. It tells them they save a life, and they scan it, and they're opened up to whatever they might need, whether it be, the website, the networking. And it's really caused, I'm a little overwhelmed right now with my inboxes and stuff, because I've got so many people from walks of life. I mean, I'm talking from them being personally related to needing treatment, to their kids, to family members. And I'm just like, oh man, there's so much help needed. And I'm a one-man band. So hence the peer, because I think they're the only ones that are going to get the train off on the right track initially. So there's nowhere else I can send these people until I get my peers. And I've got them lined up off LinkedIn from local places I know of. I've got them lined up trying to set up meetings with me, just because it's a peer community and we feel it. It's a feeling you get around each other, that we just get it. Like, we're the same. We look totally different, but we're the same. And it's a very trusting feeling.
The last few years for you have been something else, haven't they?
Yeah. Hey, look, I have been so blessed, and I have just been, the stars have literally went right in line with one another. I was like, the saying, pinch me. That sounds so cheesy to me, but it sounds so relevant to my life that there's no way I would take anything for granted at this point, because it means so much to me.
Tara, you mentioned when we first met that your plans for a digital platform that you're working on. Can you tell us about that, please?
Yeah. So now that I've got the business pretty much figured out, I'll be working on that. But in that meantime, I am going to be building. So I have peer meetings coming up from all different treatment centers, and in those meetings, I'm going to give them a direct invite at that time. I'm going to basically build a peer directory. And I'm pretty sure, I have a peer. She's on my LinkedIn. Her name is Tara. She was passed on to me from maybe 3 people along. She just got her peer certification, but I was asked to mentor her because she's a vet. But when people I know are peers now, I buy them a star in the universe. So you can go online and buy them a star and name it after them. Because I really need them to feel that, like, they really are, like, they have a place in this world. They can shine bright no matter what, even in a dark sky, like, you can still shine bright. And so with each peer, that's what I plan to do. But, the let's talk about it, as I do that, as I have these peers really want to jump in and put hands in, I want to build a directory so that way when it comes to the social platform, say fast forward a year from now, I'm hoping to have quite a national network on there of all walks of life, from people like me to people that have no idea but just want to help, right? Or maybe just want to know. I'm building it to have not only just peer resources as the most thing, because they're going to help navigate. And this is all volunteer. This is all because these people want to do it. It's not a job I'm paying them for. It's a TikTok customizable style of recovery resources. It's literally a platform that was built by a couple of Australian people. released 3 months ago, and one of those stars fell down, and I just happened to find it, and I'm able to do text, audio, and video to make it so interactive on all levels, whether you can just text and your certain maybe things you can't do technically. Maybe you want to submit a video because it's the fastest and most efficient way you can kind of get your feelings out or say something, But it's 24 hours. It's free. You don't have to be put on hold. And I will have people hopefully nationally where our time zones and stuff aren't going to matter. There's going to be help available. And the worst thing was that started this was I was on a social media platform that I don't really get into, but there was one thing that just shined so bright on there, and it was just a repost of a 1-800 suicide prevention hotline, posting and saying, to reach out for resources. And I just happened to see this highlighted comment saying, that stuff's a joke. I was put on hold. And so I didn't know the person. I reached out and I'm like, well, hey, buddy, look, life happens sometimes. Please inbox me. Let me know if there's anything I can do. I don't know you, but look, there are resources. So I got a pretty nasty reaction back. Really odd, but that just showed me that like people just at this point, they're fed up with these treatment centers, these resources. It's the same square block treatment you get. It's outdated. It's not evolved. And drug addiction and drug substances have completely evolved. And I don't know why our treatment hasn't evolved. So this platform, I'm hoping to have our peers put in kind of what's working the most in their areas, because that's what's going to be the most impactful, what they see, because that's the only ones I really trust their vision and knowing what's working. So I offer the best options and everybody else can kind of just fill in the gaps afterwards.
Wow. So no one else is doing this, Tara, no?
I don't know. I just know I'm going to do it.
You're my 53rd podcast and I've not heard of anyone doing this.
Really?
That's incredible.
I'm actually in touch with the platform designers. He's actually trying to help me because I reached out and I said, look, this is going to be your debut as well. This is gonna be big. If you guys want to just kind of help me critique it to make sure I'm showing your best let me know. So I'm hoping in the next 2 months, I'm really going to have a pretty good resource center physically and virtually.
Yeah. Goodness me. Big plans for 2025.
Fill the gaps in, right?
Yeah. Congratulations, Tara. It's amazing listening to this today. You just touched on something about tried and tested therapies for addiction. Why do you think they're all so many are outdated? And what are the problems around this?
My first problem I would throw out would be it's not going to work if you're just giving somebody a drug once a week and saying hi to them and sending them on their way. And then if they mess up, they got consequences that mess their whole treatment up. Mess their whole MAT regimen up. Literally, you cause that one big shakeup, that one tiny little uncomfortableness for somebody like me. We're going to go right back to what's comfortable fast. And the thing is, that's life or death, because once you get clean, even for 3 days, look at me, 3 days clean, your body's used to being without it. So when you're like uncomfortable, let me run to comfortableness, what happens? You die. You're dying. Why does it have to be? Because it's so easy. So I believe that the funding is so clear cut of like how to from A to Z. And it's so easy with the funding, with the people accepting treatment options at this point, that the complete purpose of it, I think, has been lost. Everybody wants money, right? Like cancer. So you come up with a new drug, you got more money. You come up with a new MAT, you got more money. But the thing is, I don't care what kind of medically assisted treatment it is, you've got to have the support around it. My center, we're going to do personalized treatment plans, and probably 90% of them are going to include MAT. But I'm telling you, I have met so many people doing brain mapping, bridge programs, Vivitrol shots. I mean, like your guy from the incentive industry where you're offering, it's so many different ways to get to people that are not evidence-based at this point, because we haven't had time to get the evidence-based because too many people are dying and we're just trying to save lives. So at this point, we might have some good evidence-based programs. They just don't have the evidence-based part of it because nobody's really showcasing all these different options that we have. And when I'm traveling, I'm like, that is so cool. Man, why did they have that? Or even if it's not for me, why is it not worth trying it or offering it to somebody, and this small town might have 5 options and I go somewhere else and there's 50. Well, why can't I bring some of those 50 to my town and just showcase what they have? And maybe they can create some connections and get it more out there. But the evidence-based term is being thrown around so loosely that I think that they really have forgotten that our most, I guess, productive, stable, consistent people in recovery that I've seen, with the most longevity have been people in a peer position that are assisting treatment, mentoring them, not a therapist, not the doctor dosing you every day, not the intake coordinator. It's a peer that's got that trust, and people aren't trusting. I have trust issues today, but if there's no trust in any kind of treatment, when you're going into any kind of evidence-based treatment, there's a problem and then there's a solution that's very clear. So they make it too clear and too A to Z. Like, people are not numbers. We're not files. It's not going to be the same for all of us. So you can have a generic treatment, but you got to personalize it a little bit, and you really got to follow these people because they have no foundation. So I have had to be foundation for people with boundaries, but be foundation for people until they can learn to hold themselves up. And in that time, they're going to fall, maybe not all, some more than others. But if they fall and they have nobody to catch them, they're another statistic. They're back in another MAT evidence-based program. And what is this? I went through 12 or 13. And you know what worked? It worked when I figured out what I could do that didn't require like all these appointments. It was me telling my story and talking to people about my life to even gain the trust to get anywhere further.
Yeah, that's incredible description. I loved it because you described you've got to be at the right place at the right time and the right therapy and the right person. And peer support is clearly a great option for anyone who's looking into recovery. I just want to touch on something because you've been through the criminal justice system, sadly, yourself, Tara. How do you find that politics has got in the way of helping people who are facing addiction? Because it's a huge one. Politics just seems to just stop this whole, people entering treatment without stigma.
So and this is gonna be me being real transparent with you. And this is kind of a sad part of it, but it's the truth. I'm going to be real truthful, and I don't know how many people would really give this a second thought, but politics are shallow. I have been given access to platforms to speak at in my recovery state, in political settings, with senators, with sheriffs, with federal agencies that are, somewhat political. So I have been around them, but I have noticed that the politics seem to be tied into funding. And the more funding they get, it seems to be like it showcases more of who they are and less of who we are. And I can say that there is one man that has really opened my eyes. I work with the National Alliance of Drug Diversion Investigators. It's FBI, DEA, DOJ, state police. So in doing those conferences and speaking at some of their schools, you see a level, of all types. And then networking with them afterwards. And I worked closely with the sheriff here in this Chesterfield County. But this is going to sound awful. If I wasn't pretty, if I wasn't attractive to some of these people, I promise you they wouldn't have given me a second look. Politics have been almost to where I kind of have to, they want to hear my story, but a lot of them don't want to accept me. Like, I can tell them my story, they want to help, but if one part of me, maybe I say something, maybe I have a character defect that they don't like or something, like, the politics is the place where I seem to get shut out of, more so in a women era. It's a very touchy subject for me. I'm actually dealing with something pretty locally. I'm gonna try not to get upset because it's just, look, man, I've had somebody really be my number one support, show me my purpose, put me in the position to save my life. And at this point, 6 years later, we've been so close. And now there's a new director of operations in a politically funded aspect of recovery. And I'm being I was wanted and needed, and they got what they wanted and needed. But I think I seem to be competition for them. And maybe it's because they get their funding from grants and stuff, but I don't think a lot of people are clear on me and what I do, because I don't want anything from anybody. I just want to help. I have people that are like, have you done grants? Have you done funding? I want to do this on my own first. This is a learning experience for me, but not only that, but it's a humbling experience for me. And that's what I need to show people, that they can do stuff, if they put their mind to it. But I did run into places and things that I did need some help on a political level, or maybe just some advice. And it's like I'm wanted when I'm needed for them, but it's too busy. It's always just for a purpose. It's always just for a specific reason at that time. It doesn't usually go any further than that. You'll have an event and you'll network, but after that is where I see how people really are and how much they really do want to help. I've got, people women judge me, not by my story, but they judge me by basically, like, a lot of people don't believe I can do what I'm doing. They don't believe that I've done what I've done. And it's like I'm constantly having to prove myself, hence my expungement, right? I could have just started my own company and I had to do all that. But at this point, I had 43 charges. I got them expunged myself because I'm so tired of that record holding over my head. And any person in a political position that I go to talk to, if they talk to me, it's great. But if they look me up first, it's like not the same. But I'm the same person, and in that sense, like, the politics have been one of my hardest ones because I feel like the doors only open when they want it open.
You said you nailed it there, Tara. Politics is shallow.
Yeah.
It really is. But
I have learned to use that. If that's the game they want to play, then I'm just going to play it and just help people benefit from it. I did it in a manipulative way in my dysfunctional addiction. Why not take that and just do it in a positive, productive way to help more people? And look, I could just accept reality. It is what it is. I just have to learn to navigate and kind of just move around that to still get the same, outcomes. And I'm willing to do that.
They're probably jealous of what you've achieved in such a short space of time. And given your history, they're probably like, what the heck?
I think it's just unbelievable because you see so many people that I think that once peers get to their peer certification, I feel like it's unspoken, but I feel like it's a general feeling of, we made it, we did it, this is us. But the thing is, I don't want them to stop there, because eventually we're going to get so many peers, we got to keep doing something, right? We've got to keep the purpose and the mission going, hence what I'm doing. So if I offer, a haven for peers to kind of blossom, I help them find their purpose. Maybe we branch out, and maybe the platform helps get it further faster. So,
yeah. Oh, I love that. That's a great answer. Thank you so much for that, Tara. I'd just like to move on with a question that I ask a lot of my guests, and it's around stigma. And you've touched on this a few times during this podcast. Why do you think in this day and age that stigma negatively impacts people wanting to enter a treatment program or a service in the community? It's still such a big issue.
So I believe there's a stigma attached to another stigma, right? So I believe we're all so used to saying there's a stigma that we stigmatize their stigma, if that makes any sense. And it's literally making no sense because everybody wants to help. Everybody's got, so look, I have ran into some people on some pretty high levels politically that have drug addictions that are put on probations right now and have no idea that their families have no idea they're on the verge of losing their entire career. And I'm there to support them quietly with anonymity because it's not going to benefit anybody to be outspoken about someone's personal journey. But in saying that, I wish I could tell all the people that of who I've helped, because if that were the case and there didn't have to be anonymity, I guarantee you we would all look at each other with completely different feelings and understandings, and probably we would have more empathy in this world because it would be more of a known stigma that we all have at some point in relation. We've all got it at some closeness. We just don't all talk about it because we don't want to stigmatize ourselves either. A lot of people don't want to do that because then you get labeled. Hence, here's my new label. I belong. I'm going to layer them because one day I might say I belong. She will. I'm a diamond in the rough, you know. Stop. My bracelets and necklaces are whatever label you want to be for that day, that second. And if it changes in 2 seconds, change your necklace, change your bracelet. Don't let anybody stigmatize you. But the stigma I know of most addicts is you can't get a job if you're a felon. MAT, I got to get Medicaid for a clinic, and I got to do intake to get treatment. That's the 3 basic stigmas of people going into recovery. And then on people from the outside looking in, it's people don't change. How long is this going to last? So you literally are putting closed doors into people's lives, all for not understanding, not empathizing, but I guarantee you I can show them where they could empathize if they would just be honest with me and themselves.
I love that. That's one of the best answers I've had. Thank you so much for that, Tara. I'd just like to briefly talk about your state and how is it coping with the opioid and fentanyl crisis? And are there any harm reduction services available within your state?
So, really good news too. So, I got an email last night. I'm going to showcase mine first, just because mine is going to be the stars aligned again last night. I had a traumatizing dream. I woke up, I recorded myself talking. It's kind of how I process things in the middle of the night. I'll just start talking out loud when I get a feeling. And as I did that, I hit stop and record, checked my email subconsciously. So I check it, and I got a response from the Narcan vending machine guy I had reached out to about a month ago, and was throwing an idea of getting one put down here. Now I was going to work with the sheriff who helped me find my purpose. He does the HEART program. He does a lot of community outreach, speaking, gets people involved. But I can say that it needs to evolve a little bit. So I went to him about some things I had been shown doing my conferences and stuff with Natty, and I was shown a presentation on the Narcan vending machines. Now I'm trained in Narcan. The guy's shirt I have on now, Mike McQuaid, he actually was, he's tattooed right here on me too. He passed in May. He had 28 years clean. I lived with him from the time I was 15 until over 22 years in and out of his life. He was a doctor, a person in recovery, on a board of directors. But he actually, the biggest thing was he helped pass the initiative of the Narcan being able to have, like us to be able to have public access to it instead of having to get a prescription. So him and a couple other people in 2018 went to the General Assembly, had it passed. I was, I was there for all this, not at that building, but I was in his life at this time. So it's always stuck in my head. They revived me with 7 hits of Narcan. So I have a personal story to it. The sheriff offers Vivitrol shots, just different harm reduction things inside the jail, and helps you transition a little bit outside. But I think if it was a little stronger there, the harm reduction would go a little further. So I went to him, pitched the idea, got everything lined up, but politics got in the way, competition. So, and I actually had somebody as a sponsor that was going to donate all the money. I went with the measurements. We had the place picked out, every detail. And then one female politic and intentionally tried to derail the project. So I sat on it for 2 months and then got my company. And just right when I signed my lease yesterday for my building, I've already went and got measurements. I just had to finish the paperwork. As I did that last night around 10, I wake up from my dream, 12 o'clock midnight. I got an email with everything I need to know to get it here ASAP, because my building, I get the key today. First things first, Narcan vending machine in the back, under some shading, camera, all access, public, 24-hour. Look, I want it here ASAP. That is the number one thing that's got to be there, because Richmond's had a grant for that Narcan vending machine set up for almost 6 months now, and I have heard nothing. People don't know anything about it around here. People don't even know about Narcan vending machines, period, mostly. So not only have I brought the idea, when I researched around here, nobody's moving. Everybody wants it. Nobody wants to do anything. So I literally could have just I said, let me know where to drop the vending machine off. Let me know. Literally, they're too busy. They want this stuff, but they want it to just be like, beam, here it is, bam, there you go. And it's just supposed to work like that, I guess they think. But to me, look, we need it, get it. You got all this money and funding. Why aren't you offering the stuff that they need? And then they wanted to put it at a magistrate's office. And I'm like, that's not very trusting. So, yeah, right. So I'm like, I'm going to put it in the back of my building. My landlord is a House of Delegate, Riley Ingram. He supports my mission. He approves everything I'm doing and supports it. And so my Narcan vending machine is going to, hopefully in less than 30 days, I'll have it there. And I live in an area that is so close to about 4 different major highways and interstates, that it's so interconnecting, that it's going to be so good for availability for people. And my building is got some privacy where they'll actually really be able to feel safe with some privacy to go get it. I mean, it's just got to be there. So other than that, there's nothing. No, I'm just kidding. There's nothing else but just that. I'm just kidding.
That's okay. I mean, so I'd just like to touch back on something you mentioned. So one politician stopped you from putting Narcan.
Yeah.
You want Narcan in the public. Why?
So it wasn't a matter of them not wanting it there. It was a matter of having to have, if you've got a sheriff that's telling me I make all the decisions, it's up to me when I say, well, what else do we need to do? I'm giving you everything. And then there's a pause. I'm like, let me go back. Where's the pause? Why? We've never had a pause. There ended up being a new director of operations that I guess when I was doing business development, I had called and reached out, because this was the place I started my treatment at. When I reached out to offer services to people getting out of jail, just as an option, she literally told me, thank you, but no thank you. We're good. I said, well, do you want me to go ahead and at least send you some stuff no, we're good, thanks. But then I got a call like 3 months later saying, hey, can you come up here and talk to the inmates in the program? They really want to hear some stuff. Because I've done that before. I spoke at their graduations. Just there's always been gaps because of people. And I literally went up there and I ended up going to court for one of the clients. I got her into treatment, showed up to help her parents, and then went back up there to do some expungements. And the lady that is director of operations, unfortunately, very sad for her, her son passed from an overdose. And I didn't even know this of this lady, knowing her for 3 years. And that speaks a lot to me because I see a lot of certificates on LinkedIn and things she's done for herself. So then again, it's politics, but it's like people get those positions intentionally to get their selfish needs taken care of. But they're in a position to help others, and they look like they're in it for the right reasons. But if you really just pay attention and watch, LinkedIn's the best place to see it. I see people that are in recovery that are so dedicated and devoted. I see them in the public, cool. But then once I see LinkedIn, it's like that's all they care about, because at these events, they're just talking to the other people they work with, or, people walking up to their vending tables and here's a card. Like my vendor table, I got everybody at my table. Like I'm talking, I'm getting on their level. Like I might cuss sometimes. I might have some raw humor sometimes. But look, I am who I am. You know what I mean? And being me, people want to help, but they don't want to accept who I am. You don't have to be personal with me or like me. I'm Tara. I'm not going to change. I'm respectful, responsible. And look, I have good intentions. But just because I'm not your personality type doesn't mean that you have to shun me, my services, or somebody's life, shove it away.
Yeah, that's right. That's incredible. I'm so sorry to hear that you've come across these hurdles, but you're just keeping going.
Look,
I know that you're just going to keep going with this. This is wonderful.
Yeah, it's been rough, really rough, but the last 2 weeks have been pretty healing for me. So you've been part of that, and I really appreciate that.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
That means a lot. It really does. Thank you so much. Last couple of questions. I ask all my guests this because I get a really interesting and varied answers, and I've interviewed a lot of people on the podcast. So can you tell me what your opinion of harm reduction is and how it can play a role in recovery?
So I believe harm reduction helps, I think on a lesser scale than prevention. My outlook at this point is you've got so many harm reduction options, and they're so different in like their approaches or their views of what their harm reduction looks like. But if you really think about it, I work with public schools and middle schools here, and when I speak to kids, I literally go, I relate with them so much and have such good outcomes because I was that kid, right? So kids grow up into adults, right? So if we got all this money put into harm reduction, where's all this money in prevention? All right. We had sex ed growing up. We learned about quite a few vulgar things, right? Where's the prevention classes in these schools? Look, they already know. Let's at least get them with the right information. So in the research study I did last week, I'm actually going to be working, hopefully getting together with this guy. They've got it in like 2 or 3 states on the West Coast. They've got prevention initiative classes implemented in schools in 3 states. And I'm so excited to bring it to Virginia. I'm going to bring it here. Because look, kids grow up into big kids. Big kids grow up into adults like me. And once you get to that point, you will waste a lot of money in harm reduction and save half of it by just putting it into prevention.
Yeah. That's so simple, but it's so obvious.
Yeah.
And so you're bringing this to your state?
I've already got a meet lined up with him, and I'm going to get everything I need. And then I work with DEA, Operation Engage. I should be hopefully their VA contact. I just did that last week. So if I can get the trust from the schools with the DEA, and I have the trust with his clinical studies and his what's been working, and then I have my experience in the schools as a peer, put it together, we should be able to make something happen.
Wow, that's huge. This could be huge for the state as well, and you could be the lead for this whole project.
Yeah, wow. I'm getting a little, I need help. I'm so scared to reach out to people that just really don't have the right, I've got to feel their intentions. I've got to feel their genuineness. I've got to feel it. If I don't feel that with people, I don't let them in.
Yeah.
This is too touchy of a subject to just play around with and take a chance with at this point in life.
Yeah. And self-care
yes.
for yourself is vital.
For sure. Yes. I take
really
Monday.
is.
Usually Mondays are my days. I get my kids co-parents on the weekends. and I work Monday through Friday. It's not like work because I love doing it, but I do tap out on the weekends on the social media stuff, work stuff, and then on Mondays I take Terra Day. So
Yeah, I love that. Terra Day. That's so cool. Well, keep doing Terra Day. It's working.
I need it. I have to. Yes.
Yeah, definitely. That's great that you're aware of that. It's one of the worst things is burnout.
Yeah, and I'm not going to
when
get
you're
that
working
because
hours.
there's too much good stuff. And it's just literally such a big world of options and opportunities that we're so closed-minded. We want to seem like open-minded, but we're really like so stuck on these same principles and treatments and options. And I'm here to shake some stuff up a little bit.
Oh,
I
yeah.
just want to
I
show
can tell.
people what's out there, because if you just show them, let it roll, you know?
Yeah, definitely. You've spoken a lot about what your plans are, Tara. But so 2025, what is going to happen? What is the by December? What would you want to do with what you're?
I'm going to have recovery looking so attractive that I am hoping to create I'm going to have an alumni, because I never want people to not feel part of a family. I never really even knew what an alumni was until I was in this one treatment program. Sad thing about that too, politically, they have their big alumni, but it's like they have the stars in their alumni, and those stars get patted on the back and clapped at quite a bit, to where the other the other 500 people in the alumni are like, oh, I wish that was me, So it's very, it's awful, man. It's awful.
Two-tier.
Yeah. So I want everybody to be a family member, whether it's somebody that's in this trailer park 10 miles down the street, or my neighbor that's in this nice 2-story, Grand Victorian. Like, we're all the same. Let's all have an alumni to know that I had no family. Luckily, I was able to find my support at this point in life, but not everybody's that blessed and lucky. And I always want people to feel like they belong. Hence why I wore this today. I belong, because that's where everything started with me. I didn't belong. I didn't fit in. I wasn't accepted. And even if I was, I didn't feel like it. So put somebody and make them feel wanted, give them a purpose, and I think we can do something.
Oh, yeah. I know you're going to. This has just been a fantastic podcast.
Thank you.
Tara. It really, really has. And what you're doing for your community and what you've achieved is just something I've not really heard of before. I've done a lot of these. So, congratulations.
Thank you.
Last couple of questions. I ask everyone this, but I'd love to hear your messages, because do you have a message for anyone listening to this podcast who's going through an addiction?
Yes. So I feel like if you're in active addiction, there's got to be if there's no good. And my big thing is integrity and intention. Those are two of my favorite words. I really feel that I've got to get this peer directory up, because I feel like if I can just get people talking to peers, finding their local peers, researching, maybe even going on like a peer website for trainings, right? In that, you find all the contacts, and trust and believe, not one person, one peer. If they're a real peer, they should be. They're not going to turn anybody away when they're just asking for navigation. Navigation into what to do. You've got warm lines and hotlines, but nobody wants to call and ring and ring and ring and ring, That's a problem with a lot of those hotlines. And it just doesn't seem personal to me. If you find a local peer or a local treatment center that has a peer, go to them. If you can't get to that point of trust and motivation, I'm hoping to maybe have some stuff recorded on my website soon. I really just need people to know that, like, I get put down every day. As much as I let, and some days is more than others. I have had people look away from me and turn their head and go, when's she going to mess up next? How long is this going to last? And that's within the last 10 years. But fast forward now, I made it through with some foundation, and I still have doubters. So I never want people to feel like, even if you feel like you have nobody, I didn't really have anybody strongly in the beginning, but I've been through so many worse situations like that. It wouldn't have been that, it was not that, it seemed hard in the moment, but to keep going was so much easier in this setting. Knowing that the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different outcome. Once you can realize, like, you realize, don't let somebody tell you. You have to make a realization that things aren't changing, but you got to do something different. That was really hard. That's a huge thing to do. But I would just recommend the easiest thing, find a peer, because all that stuff came over time. And in that beginning, it was a mess in my head, and I couldn't distinguish even where to start. I know what I felt. So if you talk to a peer, you get them feelings out. Things will happen naturally from there. But as far as for peers in this world, I really feel like they need to be careful and make sure that they are practicing their own coping and processing skills, because in the middle of talking to a client, even 2 weeks ago, I was literally words coming out physically, and my truth of my childhood, a pretty big pillar came out of what actually happened with a family member of mine that I just didn't see it like that. My subconscious covered it up real pretty. As an addict, you bury things deep. You tend to, you get clean, things come out, you process things, but in about, say, 5 years, you can have things come up that you're like, whoa, is that really part of my life? Like, that happened? It's tricky like that. And when that happens, that's your subconscious throwing that out. So it's not a planned event to talk about. Then you've got to decipher whether it's real, then factual or not. And then you have to go, wait a minute, now I got to accept this, right? If it's the truth. So it ended up being some sexual assault stuff that I just saw a different way as a child. And processing and hearing the music and talking in this conversation to help them, it brought out memories, like vivid memories, photographic memories in my head that I didn't plan on. And what that did was it created such a overwhelming, intense feeling of like, whoa, wait a minute. I started digging online immediately, crying, digging online to find exact dates and times of things. Well, wait a minute. Is this really what happened? Come to find out, it was the truth after everything I was able to put together as an adult to look for the right things. What I was being told as a child was not right. The feelings I've had my whole life concerning that, I didn't know what they were from, but then I did. Once I figured that out, I was able to process it. Now, had I been weak in that moment, not having coping, not having the right support, not having my foundation as a peer in recovery, on my own recovery, I could have easily, relapsed, overdosed, literally died, all because I wasn't ready to handle that subconscious thought that just popped up. And look, I'm so glad it did. I'm so glad it was not comfortable, but in that being said, I promise you, I didn't realize that was one of my last core issues that I was battling with, that I didn't see any other way of approaching it until that happened, or even gave it any thought.
Yeah. Goodness me. Wow. Well, thank
Peers,
you so much for
reach
sharing.
out to a peer. Yes.
There you go. Perfect advice. Thank you so much. Last question, Terry. Can you tell our listeners how to best contact you and to find your service online?
Yes. So I have the www.recoveryresourcesva.com. That is basically where I just, I'll let people book introductions, because that's, like you, the first thing I want to do is I want to create a bond. I want to create a connection with somebody, and then life will take over naturally, I promise, with conversating and communicating. But I have social medias for my personal, my business. Now they are separate, but mine is all one. So if you look me up under Tara Ballinger, if you look me up under Recovery Resources VA, I'm all one. They are showcased separately just based on whichever audience wants to look at whatever part. But in my website, it's got all about me. It's got about where I came from and everything is connected to where you get to that one website, you'll find it all. But stay tuned for letstalkaboutit.com, because I'm hoping to have my peer directory up with at least a good number by mid-spring.
Wow. Incredible. Well, Tara, it's been a genuine honour and a privilege to talk to you and to hear your journey and to hear how much you've done in such a short space of time. It's just been incredible. And thank you so much for sharing your journey with us.
Thank you.
You know, wish you all the very best for the future. And hopefully we can have you back in maybe 12 months to see where we're going.
That'd be great.
I can just see this just getting bigger and bigger and bigger.
For
I'd
sure.
love to hear more about what you're doing in schools as well. And it's incredible work you do. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.